Hey YTPC, this is Iron Brigade Piper. You guys can also call me Ben. And I'm just chilling in my back patio tonight, smoking my Rossi Rubino pipe with some Haunted Bookshop in it. Just relaxing after a long day of work. But today, I was thinking of doing episode 2 of This Day in History. And today was a momentous day back in 1958, July 29th, 1958. This was the day that NASA was officially formed. And it was formed as a result of the Russians launching two satellites up into the orbit of Earth. Sputnik 1 and Sputnik 2 were launched, I believe, in October and November of 1957. And it created kind of this uproar in the United States and motivated the government to establish a space program so that we could keep up with the Russians and compete with them. It was mainly done out of fear because the public started fearing that, well, if Russia could launch satellites up into space and maybe they could launch satellites with missiles up there and that could hit the United States, some missiles with warheads, nuclear warheads. So it created some fear and it motivated the United States to create NASA and compete with the Russians. And our first launch of a satellite was actually a huge failure. I think it was called, let me look up my notes. It was called Vanguard. That was the first satellite that we tried to launch up into space, but it exploded shortly after takeoff, so it was a dismal failure. But shortly after, we launched Explorer 1 into the atmosphere, and that was a success. And it's just the history of NASA and the space race and all that is fascinating to me because after NASA was created in May of 1961, we all know President John F. Kennedy made the statement that, well, he's kind of set the goal for the United States where he wanted to place a man on the moon by the end of the decade, by the end of the 60s. And as we all know, incredibly, that ended up happening, I think, in less than 10 years. It was like 8 years that it took us to put a man on the moon because it was July 20th. We just had the 50-year anniversary, July 20th, 1969, that the Eagle landed on the moon, and Neil Armstrong was the first human to set foot on the moon. So just amazing, within 8 years that we were able to do that and place a man on the moon. So that's this day in history. I just wanted to keep it short and sweet. And just thinking about just the great accomplishments that NASA has done, and also some of the failures, like some of the shuttles that we lost, like the Challenger and the Columbia, and just some of the brave people who lost their lives and just poured themselves into the goal of reaching the moon and exploring space in our solar system. So if you get a chance, I just watched this documentary that CNN did about the moon landing. I think it was called Apollo 11, and fabulous documentary. So if you guys get a chance to watch it, it was, I think, like a 50th anniversary documentary that they put together. Amazing. It just showed like a lot of the footage in in Houston and the ground control center, and also a lot of the shuttle footage, and actually a lot of footage that hasn't been released to the public before was shown in this documentary. The thing that I really enjoyed too about it was a lot of the radio chatter and the radio discussions. You hear these guys talking back and forth, you know, from ground control to the Apollo 11 shuttlecraft, and then when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin are going down on the Eagle, it shows the whole sequence of them releasing from Apollo 11 and going down and landing on the moon, that was amazing. It was I think they just barely made it with enough fuel. I think they had like 16 or 14 seconds of fuel left before they had to turn back. So it was like a close run thing. And just seeing Neil Armstrong stepping off the the step onto the moon, and that famous quote of his, this is one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. It was just inspiring to me. That was the first time I've actually seen the whole moon landing, which is kind of incredible to me because I love history so much. But if you guys get a chance and you haven't seen it, take a look. It's just amazing what humanity can accomplish when we put our minds together. So anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Enjoy your pipes, get some rest. This is Iron Brigade Piper signing off.